Number 8. The man who rents himself out. In Tokyo, a man named Shoji Morimoto noticed that every job he tried ended the same way, with a boss explaining that he contributed nothing. Most people would take that personally. Morimoto took it professionally. In 2018, he began renting himself out as a companion who does nothing. For around 10,000 yen a session, he will sit across from you in a cafe and not make conversation. He will wait at the finish line of your marathon. He will see you off at the train station, wave once, and leave. He does not chat, he does not carry boxes, he does not give advice. Simple presence, that's the entire product, and it worked. Thousands of bookings, hundreds of thousands of followers. Publishers turned him into books, and television turned him into a drama series, a show about him doing nothing that other people were paid to write. He is, by any honest measure, the hardest working person in this video, which tells you something about where this list is heading. 3 hours at a time, that's the opening bid. From here on, the units get worse. Number 7. The man who sued his boredom. Frederic Desnard was a manager at a perfume company in Paris. Then he says the responsibilities began quietly leaving. Meetings happened without him. Projects flowed around him the way a river flows around something that has stopped moving. For about 4 years he was paid to be present. He described walking laps of the office, stretching small tasks across entire days while his health folded in on itself. French labor law already had a famous word for being destroyed by too much work: burnout. Desnard's lawyers argued the opposite direction: bore out, destroyed by nothing. The company insisted the job was real and he simply wasn't doing it, a defense with a certain circular beauty given the charge. In 2020, a Paris appeals court sided with him and awarded roughly 40,000 euros. Now read that sequence back slowly. He was paid for 4 years to do nothing, and then paid extra because the nothing had been damaging. 4 years. The ladder is climbing now, and from here on, nobody on it put the nothing in a brochure. They just stopped mentioning it. Number 6. The award for loyal service. In 2016, the deputy mayor of Cadiz in Spain prepared a small ceremony for a municipal engineer named Joaquin Garcia, a commemorative plaque honoring 20 years of loyal and dedicated service at the water board. There was one problem with the plaque. Nobody could find the man being honored. Managers were consulted, calls were made, and slowly fact assembled itself in the middle of City Hall. Nobody had seen Garcia at work in at least 6 years. The water company assumed he answered to the city. The city assumed he answered to the water company, and Garcia, stationed precisely in the gap between those two assumptions, answered to no one. The salary arrived the entire time. In court, his defense was almost dignified. He said he did come in at least for a while, but that the office had been given no actual work. So he had devoted the years to philosophy, becoming reportedly an expert on Spinoza. The fine was 27,000 euros, 1 year's salary, the legal maximum. 6 years of paid nothing, ended by the one force no absentee ever plans for: recognition. Number 5. The rooms. New York City schools had a problem with a very specific shape. A teacher accused of misconduct could not stand in front of children while the case was investigated. But union contracts meant the teacher could not simply be fired either. The solution sat exactly halfway between those two facts: reassignment centers, rooms. The teacher would report every morning on school hours to a room and sit in it, full salary, no students. No duties. The teachers called them rubber rooms. At the peak there were around 700 people in them, costing the city tens of millions of dollars a year. Some played cards, some slept, at least one reportedly wrote novels, and because the hearings crawled, the sitting stretched months, then years. Some cases ran as long as 7 years. 7 years, salaried in a room, waiting for a meeting about whether you can leave the room. The city announced the rubber rooms were closing in 2010. Reporters kept finding them for years afterward, renamed, relocated, and reliably full, which is the halfway lesson of this list. It turns out you can be paid to do nothing as a punishment, and it still beats working. Number 4. The Phantom of Valencia. Carlos Riccio held a post in the culture department of the Valencia provincial government, and attendance was never his problem. Every morning, investigators say for around 10 years, he arrived at the building, presented his card to the machine, clocked in, and left. That was the whole routine. One gesture a day, like a monk with exactly one prayer. The salary was around 50,000 euros a year. And in fairness, there is a strange amount of fairness available here. Riccio did not spend the decade idle. He wrote books, he drew. He maintained what amounted to an entire second career as a local author on municipal time. His defense was that his real job, promoting culture, happened out in the city because, and this is nearly a direct quote, culture cannot be promoted from behind a desk, which is not a defense, it's a philosophy. The city eventually dismissed him and invited the courts to review the decade in detail. 10 years. Valencia discovered it had been employing, at full salary, an opinion. He did become famous, though, which, for a promoter of culture, has to count as delivery. Number 3. The King of the Absentees. In the city of Catanzaro in southern Italy, a hospital employed a man named Salvatore Scumacce in the department that helped manage staff attendance. Take a moment with that sentence. According to prosecutors, Scumacce was on the payroll for 15 years, during which he never appeared. Not rarely, not occasionally. At all. Estimated collection, 538,000 euros for body of work consisting of no work. The one system built to catch him was, for a while, partly his. When a supervisor finally noticed and prepared a report, investigators say he persuaded her not to file it, using the style of persuasion that later became one of the criminal charges. Then she retired. Her successor inherited a file that said nothing, and the nothing continued the way nothing does, quietly and without complaint, for years. When police finally unraveled the scheme in 2021, their investigation into phantom employees crowned him with an official press nickname, the King of the Absentees. 15 years. He was charged, not celebrated, although you can tell, reading it, that the press release enjoyed itself. Number 2. The 24-year leave request. In 1990, an executive engineer in India's Central Public Works Department named A.K. Verma applied for leave. The leave ran out. He applied for an extension. The extension was refused, so Verma did what, deep down, all of us have wanted to do with a refused request. He treated it as approved. He did not return to work in 1991, or 1995, or 2000, 2005, or 2010. The department responded as the speed departments are famous for. An inquiry was ordered. The inquiry found him guilty of willful absence in 1992, impressively fast. And then the file entered the long dark corridor where files go, because actually dismissing him required approvals stacked on approvals, and the stack took the rest of the story. He was formally dismissed in 2014, 24 years after his last appearance at work, and only after the case had climbed to the very top of the ministry. Exactly how much of that interlude was paid is a question the ministry has been asked many times, and has generally treated as rhetorical. 24 years, one leave request, denied, and yet, in every way that mattered, granted. Number 1. The national holiday. Bobby Bonilla was a very good baseball player, and this story is not about that. In the year 2000, the New York Mets owed him $5.9 million and wanted him off the roster. His agent proposed something creative. Don't pay now, defer all of it at 8% annual interest starting in 2011. The Mets looked at 8% and privately smiled. Because the team's owners had their money invested with a financial genius who reliably delivered better returns than that every single year. The genius was Bernie Madoff. Last video we covered people who sold things they didn't own. The Mets had parked their fortune with the all-time champion of the category, so the deal was signed. Bobby Bonilla played his final season in 2001, and every July the 1st from 2011 to 2035. The New York Mets pay him $1,193,248.20, nearly $30 million for the $5.9 they didn't feel like paying. He will collect his final check at 72 years old. Baseball now celebrates July the 1st as Bobby Bonilla Day, an actual recurring league-acknowledged holiday. And here's the twist this whole list has been building to. Everyone else on it hid. They faked a clock-in, dodged a plaque, leaned on a supervisor. Bonilla did nothing wrong. He just read a contract that other people signed while smiling. 25 years of checks, no fraud, no arrest, no shame. The most successful person ever paid to do nothing, and the only one who got a holiday out of it. One last thing, liking this video takes about 1 second. Subscribing takes 2. That's 3 seconds of honest work, which, by the standards of everything you've just watched, makes you Employee of the Month. We would pay you for it, but as this video has established, getting paid for nothing requires seniority. And the moment this channel can afford to pay us to do nothing, these uploads stop. Until then, new videos soon.